You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kirsten.
My God.
The big show.
Did you hear it? Yeah, it's Caps on Tap. That's what it is. You can call it what you want. Well, some hope that karma is a bitch. Yeah. It is the big show, Caps on Tap. This is my friend that stayed in a haunted hotel. If she really wanted to understand fear, she would have watched the game tonight from the perspective of Dubnik. Yeah. We may have a call in already. But I wasn't ready for that. So let's just see if I can get to it in time. Doom, 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 doom. Come on, get me over there, Google. Can you do my good? Okay, whoever just tried to call in, you caught me a little off guard. You can try to call in again. I should be able to get you on. Not used to people calling in so early. Apparently we have some excited Caps fans out there tonight. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about what we saw differently tonight with this Washington Capitals team. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, if anything. I'm going to tell you about an upcoming possible change to my backbone players. I got to think about it. It takes players 10 or 15 games to get into or out of my backbone players for the Washington Capitals. So I got to think about it. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm not trying to hide anything. So you'll always know where each player stands with me on the backbone squad. Bringing up the box score here for this Washington Capitals game. I watched every second of it. Did you? Yeah. I just was pleased in many ways. But I'm going to tell you something that you may disagree with, because basically I was in disagreement with the announcers and, even Alan May, even the analyst afterwards. Locker, Joe B., I didn't see the defense in the first period that they kept saying was there. Correct me where I'm wrong. So let's see, box score, Washington. Yeah, we'll do that again. Let's see, Washington. Can I get a Capitals box score? ESPN usually does a good one. Capitals. There we go. Whoever just tried to call in, please do try again. Google. Here we go. Now, Google has been behaving lately. Let's see. You are on Caps on Tap. Who are we talking to?
Kevin, it is Bernie from Rockville, the infamous one that always calls in on the Caps post-game show on the radio. But since we don't have any visiting games yet, hopefully they'll get those back on. I figured I'd pop on.
I appreciate the call, man. Tell me what you saw tonight. What are you thinking?
Prototypical road game. Great.
Yeah.
They weren't pinching like they were a lot against Winnipeg. I don't know if it was familiarity or not, but it's good to see them simplify a game, play a good road game. I think we got the face-off thing down pat. I mean, OV is on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be so afraid if I were Adam Oates to tell him anything. I would just be like, you keep going.
He's told him enough already with the getting him over on the right side of the ice instead of the left side. So
yeah, and you know what? Tonight, what we should do, we should call out some people, because if you recall, about halfway through last season, people were saying OV was done, that he had passed his peak. You remember that?
Yep, but you had to give Adam Oates a chance to weave his magic. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
That's right, absolutely.
So.
And he doesn't get enough credit for his approach, I think, because it isn't nasty. You remember somebody like Gabby would just bitch and cuss and scream. And Oates comes in with this smooth demeanor, but he's getting it done, isn't he?
Exactly. I think Gabby, Bruce had a really good way of doing things as well. The problem is, never really brought any blue line to help him out. You'll see what he's got in Anaheim out there. They brought it. The last off-season, they put in Brian Allen, they brought in Surrey, they brought in guys to play defense and clear the net. We never really had that in D.C.
Yeah. How do you feel about Mike Green lately? I've got mixed emotions on him.
I just threw that Tuesday game in the trash can, saying, "Hey, I mean, every good player is going to have a clunker, and that was a clunker with 4 flat tires, Kevin." But he played really well tonight, and I really liked how he stood up for Holtby at the end of the game. Even got the high five from Holt Beast as he was going off the ice. So I mean, it's a team game. Sometimes you're going to have the stick, and you're going to be able to put in. You're going to have a goal and 2 assists. Some nights you're not going to have it, and you're going to have to do it in other ways, whether it's chipping the puck out of the zone or sticking up for your goaltender.
Yeah, that's right. And he did that tonight. You know, he did impress me tonight. I was thinking, because I've been on a bit of a crusade against Mike Green. I'm so frustrated because I love the guy so much, and I hadn't seen him putting forth the effort. What I was seeing is he would have this amazing game, and then for 5 games he'd ride that and not do anything. And then this amazing game, and then another 5 games. And I'm going, Mike, that's not you, man. You're a workhorse. You're game over Green. What's going on here? And I see it going back and forth, but I may be misreading it because somebody was telling me that he may still be nursing a little bit of a groin injury. So he may be playing, you know, a little more reserved. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, he's trying to become more of a complete defenseman. I think last year you saw that, especially when they went on the run. He was a lot better in his own end. I think Schmidt struggled a lot tonight. That was the first real game he struggled.
I
fully.
saw that. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, he played with Alsner, now he's playing with Schmidt. Would like to see them get a big body defenseman. Maybe Orlov's the answer eventually. Maybe it's Schmidt. Maybe it's Urban. I mean, I'd like to see a big guy that with some mobility playing with Mike Green and see what happens.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to see a lot more Urban, to be honest with you. I mean, I love a Swedish player anyway, but you bring in a big guy like that, I'm going to say. But is he good? I haven't seen enough of him. Have you done your homework on Urban? Have you seen his...
He's a top-end prospect. It's I mean, Oates, I think the reason why they were able to pull the waiver claim is Oates had him as an assistant in New Jersey. And what he's seen in him is enough to bring him in. Hey, you can't scuff at 6'4", 215 that actually can move, that has a good skating sense. I mean, 22 years old. I was surprised that New Jersey let him get on waivers, truth be told. But they have 3 or 4 good D prospects up that way, Kevin. So it's a tough thing. I mean, they had to make room for Elias and cap Johnny on the spot, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that was a smart move, and I guess they did have to move quick. I mean, we've made some questionable trades before, of course. What do you think about what we gave up last year for what we gained this year? Well, I mean, just a general sense. Like, do you think we should have never traded Philip Forsberg for what we got?
That, you know, that's such a dicey thing. The thing that I see, the reason why I think Forsberg was somewhat expendable was he was playing in the 2nd division Swedish Elite League. I mean, he's got tremendous talent. I'm not dicing it. But remember, when they drafted Forsberg and Wilson, Ovi was still a left wing. And they were trying to get some right wings in town. Oates flipped over the right wing. Now you had a glut. You had Ovi, you had Brouwer, you had Ward, you had Wilson, you have Forsberg. I think he saw, hey, there's a top 6 guy in Marty Erat who, once he got back over the top 6 this year, is showing why he is a top 6 forward. And, you wish you could have got, I think they could have gotten more for Forsberg, but I think the whole reason why they pulled that deal was not just getting a top 6 left wing in Marty Erat, but also getting someone in the future that can be your third-line center in Michael Latta down the road.
Yeah, they're developing him too. Now, before we get too deep into it, let's tell people how do you normally help run a show? We want to tell people how to find you if that's the case, or were you just saying that you call into a certain show?
I call the official radio broadcast of the Washington Capitals on Federal News Radio 1500 and also 106.7 The Fan in D.C. I call in on all the. I used to be that they had post-game shows on the home and the road games, but I've gone down to just home games. Maybe down the road, I think they'll expand again. But I usually call in on every home game I can, and they even have a little intro for me. But I always like to get a couple good points with Ben Raby and Ken Sabrin, former Capitals defenseman, is on there on the post-game show. I like giving a good introspective and being able to actually sound like. I like making this Washington D.C. sound like a hockey town, and sometimes you get callers that don't know what they're talking about. So I like to be able to
right.
make a couple good points every game. Sometimes, I mean, I don't even see the game and still make a good point, which is pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can already tell that your depth surpasses mine, and I've been watching them since 1974. So you got that down pat, you know.
Yeah. First game for me, Kevin, was January '79 against the Red Wings at the old Capitol Center. My dad took me when I was 7, and I've been hooked ever since. You know.
Yeah. Me too, you know, and it's funny because this isn't the kind of place where hockey would have been a big deal. You know, I started out as basically a toddler watching them, and back then my mom said you used to point at the TV and say "Washi Katzel,"
so what you're saying, Kevin, is you had the foreshadowing that we were going to have a tennis team here.
I guess so. But then we started, I didn't live close enough to D.C. I was down in the Virginia Beach area, living in Newport News. And so we would just go to the local hockey games, the Hampton Aces at the time, which loosely translated into, after a long hiatus, the Norfolk Admirals. Are not really related, but that was our new local team, you know.
Right.
And, we just loved it. And so that's when I fell in love with hockey, really, watching the Capitals and then going to the Aces games. And then everywhere I went, you know, I joined the Air Force, went to Alaska, would go to all the Alaska Gold Kings games up in Fairbanks and just really fell in love with it. But the Washington Capitals have always had my heart, you know, no matter how many times they disappoint me, I can't turn my back on them. I turned my back on the Redskins. I admittedly became a fair weather fan. I'll only watch when I'm enjoying how they're playing now. But never the Capitals. Never have I abandoned them. And I know that cup is coming, man. 5 years. Sometime in the next 5 years, we're getting that cup. Ovi's not going to leave without one.
Oh, no doubt. And look, Los Angeles Kings went 45 years without a cup. There's teams like the Buffalo Sabres and St. Louis Blues that still haven't had that cup come down their city. So, I mean, we're not the last in pecking order on teams without a Stanley Cup in their town. So,
amen to that.
I find interesting, and I knew about this, but it was interesting. If you get a chance, the new NHL Rival show that they have on NBC Sports Network is spot on. They do the rivalry of what they're showing on the Wednesday night game, and they show history. And they had the Caps and Rangers a couple weeks ago, but the first one really struck me was Chicago and St. Louis, and he talked about how St. Louis got the team, and it was originally supposed to be awarded to Baltimore. In '67, which would have made it very interesting to see if they would have came over like the Bullets, or if the Washington or Bay Poland would have even gotten a team.
Right.
So, but the Chicago owners had 97% of the old Checker Dome in St. Louis, so they gave St. Louis the franchise so they can get out of being the sole owners of that building. So.
Okay. Well, what do you know, I was looking at our record basis. Here was I go a lot on gut feeling. I don't always go with the numbers because, you know, you kind of have to sometimes. You got to go with what you're seeing with the team's momentum as a system rather than just looking at stats. And I'm watching this.
That one.
Yeah, you know, and you can tell, you know, when you've been around, even 5 or 10 seasons, you get a feel, you know what's going on with the team. You get this, you see this whole thing moving like a train, and you can kind of predict how fast it's going or how slow it's going. And I'm watching us at home, and I was wrong. I said, here we are. Yeah, we left with a win, but we're stutter stepping here, and we're not looking good, and we're about to hit a very hard road schedule. I didn't expect 2 wins like this. I mean, I just didn't see it coming, you know.
Well, when they went 1-3, I mean, Adam had to readjust the lines when they got Erat up to the second line, and
smartest move we've made. Yeah.
I mean, he's a 16 to 18 minute guy. I mean, no disrespect to. I mean, Grabowski. I mean, a lot of people say you got demoted to the third line. I say we have a 2A and a line 2A and a 2B. And if you saw tonight, Kevin, these 2 road games, Grabowski, Ward, and Chimera have pretty much ground down opponent defenses, and I was glad that they got a couple goals in there tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely. They deserved it, too. You know, I'm curious to hear what you say about this. I'd like to know your backbone club. I have what I call, for some reason, it doesn't matter what you call them, but I call them backbone players, the players to which I think all others are connected. And I kind of made them up after thinking for a long time. And what I came up with was Ovi, Backy, Chimera, Eric Fair, and Holtby. And a lot of people are questioning my choice of Fair, but I kind of saw him as an assassin, a sniper. You know, usually when he scores, nobody knows where he came from. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing. He reminds me of a Simmons in a way, but he's not being consistent again. So he's kind of on my shaky side. But I love his skill set, you know.
You think about it, former first-round pick. He was picked one pick ahead of Ryan Getzlaf. So everyone wants to compare Fair to Getzlaf. The thing is with Fair is he had glimpses of that 25-30 goal scorer last year in the when he came back. I mean, he rediscovered his scoring touch in Finland. I think he's not putting up the big numbers like he did at the beginning of the season because he's learning the defensive responsibilities it takes to be a center iceman. I mean, the only thing I wish Oates would have done if he was going to put Eric Fair at center, I wish he would have done it from game one of the preseason. So he had eight preseason games to learn the little nuances because. See, in the first game against Chicago, he was lost defensively, and that led to 3 of the Blackhawk goals that night. So,
who would you say? Who would make your backbone club if you had to pick just 4 or 5 players to which all others are connected? You know, in other words, if any one of those players were to be gone, it would hurt other players on the team. Who would you say would be your 4 or 5?
8 and 19 are like attached to the hip. I mean, that's your Gretzky and Curry. That's your Kane and Taves. That's your Bossy and Trottier. You know, your Lemieux and Yager from the glory days of those ugly-looking Penguins. You know, you got your peanut butter and jelly. You know, I mean, without one, I mean, the other's gonna. I mean, the other might still. I mean, you have a guy like Grabowski who can step in for Backstrom, but you're going to be hurting. Outside of that, you need that too. You need 3 good centers in this league to really make something happen. I mean, when I think of blood and guts, glue guys, 21, Brooks Lake has always been that for me. And you could see that, Kevin, when he came back is when when they started going off because they had the tough loss to Pittsburgh, and then they had the back-to-back against Winnipeg when they outscored them 10-1. They showed highlights of those 2 games like every third face-off on Tuesday night, reminding us of that fact, which was pretty funny. But whenever Brooks is in the lineup, things happen. I mean, I almost kind of, until Ovi really started stepping up the last couple of years, he was pretty much the guy that was doing all the captain things. He was the one that would address the media the way you'd wish a captain would, and a lot of people were hoping he was going to get the C when Clark left. I mean, granted, Ovi was the heir apparent to that C, but, I mean, to have a guy like Brooks Lake in your locker room makes it easier on Ovechkin to do what Ovechkin can do.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I would have thought he would have gotten the C, to be honest with you. I didn't think Ovi was ready for it. The buddy system with Semin there, having little cliques in the locker room is not a good thing, and I didn't expect him to, but what a star, you know, and I just love to watch him shine, but I didn't think he was captain material, really. But it seems almost like an obligatory thing now to give the stars the C.
Yeah, and I mean, Ovi has that leadership quality. I mean, there's no questioning that. And I mean, he's the lightning rod. I mean, he's one of the most electric players this league has seen. But he's put himself in a position where if he slumps, everyone's like, got the house on fire, the roof's on fire. Oh God, what's going on with Ovechkin? Yada yada yada. But someone made up a great point talking about how like guys like Malkin and them, they might have numbers right away early in the season, but no one's questioning what's wrong with him because Crosby might be going off. And Ovi goes cold. It's like, what happened here? I mean, you're looking for Ovechkin to do something about it, but there's times where even the greatest slump off.
It's sad because people forget that when someone sets that bar so high and routinely jumps over it, then they hit it a few times, it looks bad. It really does. It's like, what's wrong with you? Yet that low bar, that bar that they're hitting is still higher than most of your average players. And people, it's all about, it's all relative. But people are saying from their normal performance level, this is how we're comparing. And when you have somebody like an Ovechkin, the poor guy's doomed if he has a few bad games because of how his level of intensity and play on most days is what's going to be compared. And you fall below that, and boy, the lights light up, don't they? They got you under a microscope. Is it something going on at home? Is it something in his diet? Has he passed his peak? I want to call out people by name that said his career was over.
You have the Mike Milburys and the Don Cherry's world. They're just waiting to hop on him. You know.
Oh, they are too.
I just love having. There's guys like Jeremy Roenick and Barry Melrose that know what Ovechkin's going through and usually are there. I mean, okay, if he deserves criticism, by all means criticize. But when he deserves praise, I mean, you got to line up and step up. I mean, you see the run he's on right now: 32 goals in his last 31 regular season games.
That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell.
That's his best so far, right? Best in his career.
Yeah, I mean, and I saw a stat in the Post, in the Washington Post today, that he's the first, the last guy that did something like this was Pavel Bure in 2001. So
wow.
Tell me this doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, that's right.
I say he keeps on this thing, they're going to start thinking 50 and 50 maybe. Yeah, possibly. I think Ovi's on a mission this year, Kevin. I think he's on a mission for a gold medal in the Stanley Cup, and he wants to shut everyone up this year.
I think he can do it too. I mean, I'm definitively on board with the gold medal. I don't know about the Stanley Cup. I sure hope so, man. You know, we're all behind him.
Well, I think he wants that Stanley Cup to be his best man at the wedding.
Yeah, right. You know? I hope she doesn't tame him too much, man. I'm a little worried about that.
I'm actually thinking I think Maria has actually gotten him focused, I think.
You think so? I hope so.
I think him knowing that he's going to get married, and he's going to have someone else in his life, and, I mean, still having mommy and dad around, but at the same time, now you have more responsibilities in your life. Yeah. It's starting to really, I mean, you know, I think it'll hit home. It's like, wait a second, I'm not getting any younger, you know.
That's right, and it doesn't hurt at all that she understands what being a professional athlete is and what it takes, you know.
And
that's going to help her.
Yeah, and she's not one of those she's not out in the limelight like Kornikova was back in the day. I mean, she's a very accomplished tennis player, but at the same time, she knows all the figures and the struggles it is to get to a certain part. I mean, she's still trying to aspire to get into the top 10 as a singles. I mean, she's gotten one of the best doubles players in the world, but, I mean, she's still aspiring, just like Ovechkin, to get to that pinnacle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And his mother was also, I believe she was a Olympic
Olympic gold medalist. Yep.
Yeah, so he's been around this stuff all his life. So his normal is excellence, and maybe that's where it all started. But what do you think about when it comes to psychology for Ovi? You look at something like what happened to his brother. Do you think that can really come back to haunt him, or has he really made his peace there and put that behind him in a big way?
He's made his peace. I think right now, I mean, like you say, he's coming to another time of his life where now it's like, hey, I mean, I'm at the point of my life where everyone says that 27 to 29, you should be at your peak physical and playing ability. I mean, he's signed till he's 37, but I mean, these next couple of years, I mean, are going to be years where he can make a legacy out of something. Right. I mean, I think Crosby being healthy is actually driving him too, because you know, and I know, Kevin, being Caps fans, we got the rose-colored glasses and everything, but at the same time, even when I take them off, it's like every time you hear something, it's Crosby this, Crosby that, Crosby this. I mean, I know you want him to be the face of the NHL, but let's get Pierre Maguire's head out of his rear end every so often. Thank you. Goodness gracious! I mean, NBC is not up nothing but Crosby. It's the national broadcasting company. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. They love that guy, you know, and I think that comes partly because maybe he's a prettier man, but he's also a Canadian. You know, he's not a European.
But one thing I'll give Crosby, and I think Ovechkin's getting this, is he eats, sleeps, breathes, talks, and poops hockey. I mean, he gets back in the off season. He's always working on something. He had a low face-off percentage. He went back that off season and worked on his face-offs. You could tell he's back to being the Crosby of old. I mean, he had a full off season to get out that concussion, and he's back to being who he is. I mean, that's one of the most dynamic players in the NHL. I'm never going to take that away from him. I can't stand some of his antics, but that's his antics. That you can't take away the fact that he is one of the best players ever to lace up the skates in the National Hockey League. I mean, you cannot take that away from him. as bad as we hate him.
It's so easy to hate him, But I mean, the NHLPA voted him the whiniest player in the league. That was a couple of years ago. But he keeps scoring and he keeps bringing these assists. And the only thing
amazing plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I hear people talk about an OV and a Crosby, I say, well, first we're apples and oranges. But one thing I love OV for that Crosby cannot deliver for me is hits. He's got the hits category.
Hey, hits, and he also has that flamboyance, that thing that he's out there. I mean, he embraces life. He enjoys it. Sometimes that can get him bit in the butt by the media and all that, but at the same time, it's like, hey, he's not just staying away from things. I mean, you catch him on a bad day. I mean, like the one incident in Vancouver in 2010 at the Olympics. His team just got eliminated from the Olympics. I mean, good Lord. I mean, could you give him some space?
Yeah, they had a camera up in his face, and he wasn't ready to talk. So
exactly.
I can't blame him.
No, I mean, it's the Canadian press. You never know what to expect next.
Yeah, poor guy.
But no, Kevin, it's a really good nucleus they got with. I think a guy like Troy Brouwer starting to become a really good glue guy as well. And I mean, you have guys who you have different elements with the Lions team, and as much as I can't say Marcus Johansson, the one thing I'll give him, he's lightning, and he's only 22, so he's still learning how to be a top line left wing. I mean, I personally don't think he's a top line guy right now, but he's still getting assists on that top line. As long as he's doing that, I don't think Oates is gonna take him off there. I mean, but it is what it is. I mean, I like Brooksy. I like the lines the way they're set up right now, and you can really see this. I mean, these four trios really in shape.
Absolutely, yeah. And Mojo had me worried. I saw a lot of slacking. Jason Chimera, the guy comes and grinds every time. He's got the same speed as Mojo, but he uses it every time. And I wasn't seeing Mojo use it. And then I said about 3 games ago, it seemed like Mojo turned it on. He started getting active again. He turned into the guy that I saw a year and a half ago. And I said, okay, there's Mojo. That's the one I knew. And maybe he was threatened. Maybe he felt a sense of threat.
I think he's stressing a lot. I mean, he's got to realize that he is on one of the most cherished spots that anyone in the NHL would love to be on, and that's a left wing on a line with one of the most dynamic playmaking centers in the league and the most electric goal scorer in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you aren't gonna, I mean, he's stressing, trying to make plays. He doesn't know when to shoot, when to pass. He tries to make he tries to feed Ovechkin. But one thing I think Backstrom's starting to tell him is like, hey, look for your own shot. Ovi will be open when Ovi's open, but shoot your own shot. And one thing when I coached my brother's adult league team a couple times, and the thing I always like to do, I mean, I'll do it on video games, I'll do everything. I wish more NHLers would do it. If you're coming down a 2-on-1 or an odd man rush, shoot it to the low side of the goaltender. Make him kick it to your other guy. Use the goaltender as your pass almost, instead of trying to force that saucer pass over a defenseman's stick or glove or boot or wherever they try to get in the passing lane. I mean, use the goaltender to your advantage.
Yeah. We don't do that enough, do we? We don't have a lot of follow-up garbage goal guys like Mike Knuble used to serve as. We need somebody posting up in the middle.
Knuble was one of the best. I mean, pucks would go off every extremity on the body with him. I mean, but he knew how to get in front of the net and stay in front of the net. That's the one thing when the power play gets stagnant a little bit is when they're not moving. I mean, you see some of the best power plays in the NHL. They're moving with the puck, moving without the puck. I mean, Ovi and them have got them. I think when they got off to that 6-for-10 start in the power play the first 3 games, Ovi was moving from the goal line to the top of the faceoff circle, giving different angles. I mean, because you got to keep moving. You can't let the penalty kill just get into a set diamond or a set square, set box. You know, you got to keep them looking over your shoulder, looking for that blindside pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do, too. You see how confused they are. The 2 guys on OV's side, usually on a PK, they're stressing. They've got the head turning back. And a lot of times they don't know what to do. They'll cross over. If they're playing a man defense, they'll cross over and lose him. And that's beautiful, because all of a sudden, if we could just get Nicky to shoot a little bit more, that would scare some of that PK back over toward him. But for some reason, it seems to me like most of the league knows Nicky's not going to shoot most of the time. He's going to get it to OV or somebody in the middle, And
that's why I was a little head scratching in the last couple of games why they took Grabowski off that top unit and put Johansson on it, because Grabowski would get in front of the net from behind the net. But the thing I would love to see them do is put Backstrom below the goal line and put Grabowski on the face-off dot, because Grabo will shoot the bleeping thing.
Oh yeah, he sure will, and shoot it well too. He can pick his spots, and I love the way he moves. To be honest with you, I mean,
tell me that wasn't a honey of a pass he made to Schreier for the fourth goal.
God, right between the guy's legs. Was it just? I mean, straight ahead, a 3-yard pass at the right speed, knowing that once it got there, it would have to be shot. The angle was closing quick. And then Chimera to hit the top corner like that. What a beautiful combination of efforts.
I think Chimera's gotten over the snake bit syndrome he had last year, where everything was a post or a goalie's mask or a skate blade or anything but the net. Yeah.
Here's a good question for you. Do you think that our power play being so phenomenally good right now is going to start having a psychological scare factor against other teams?
I think it's going to be in the back of their mind. I just hope it's not in the back of the referee's mind, and we don't get as many calls as we should. I mean, I saw a couple of them, a couple tonight. I'm just like head scratching. The Erskine call blew my mind. I was like, what? That was a basic hit. It wasn't anything to the head. It wasn't anything egregious, but then you see Caps getting interfered with. You see other the Tuesday night game, Winnipeg. There was like 3 or 4 tripping minors they could have called on both teams, and I'm just like, what are these officials watching? And look at right at the play, and the guy from center ice is making the call. I'm like, stop guessing at these damn things and make the call.
Yeah. My poor girlfriend, she knows when the calls are going bad, because that's when I'm yelling at the TV. Everything else I can handle, but when they're missing calls against us, I'm freaking out, Now, if I've seen them miss a couple calls that favor us, I'll sort of just shut up and be like, well, we got away with a couple. But for some reason, if you were to flip a coin on calls and say, okay, you're going to get one bad call for every good call, it doesn't happen that way with the Caps. We're a 6 and 4 more than a 5 and 5. What is it about the Washington Capitals? Is it just that we have the greatest player in the league that gets us that extra scrutiny? I don't know.
I see it in games all over the league. That's why I'm not just on the Cap. I mean, I just want to see the games get called correctly. I mean, just let the guys make the plays and do the things. And I mean, you gotta get guys like. I mean, it's just appalling. Like every night you see a questionable hit lately. The one I don't know if you saw last night's with John Scott on Louis Erickson. I mean, you're down 4-2 Buffalo, and you're sending John Scott out, who is Captain 6'8" goon. all he's on the ice for is to do something stupid, and sure enough, he did. And, I mean, you got him and Coletta. They both deserve to be on the next train to the KHL or something. They don't belong in this league.
What did he do?
Actually, Mike Milbury was calling for Ron Rolston's job, and I would have been like, I agree. I rarely agree with Milbury, but I mean, you send out an enforcer down 2 goals. Like, I mean, you're struggling to only have 1 win in the season, and you're sending out. I mean, it was a blindside hit. I mean, principal point with the heads to kind of hit to try and take out of the game. I mean, I could see that being a 10 to 20 game suspension. Are
they reviewing it now?
Yeah, he's suspended indefinitely, pending in-person hearing, similar to Coletta when Coletta got the 10-gamer.
Okay,
his appeal just got denied, so he has to serve the full deal, which is good. That's another guy who takes too many liberties.
Yeah. Well, once they build a history, Sheriff Shanahan's all over that shit. He likes calling those histories out, especially if they've done it more than once, so 2 or more times. Boy, he's all over that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Ovi's been unfairly hit on sometimes. It's like...
Oh, yeah. And he's careful now. That's the only thing that hurts me a little bit is Ovi, after that last suspension, I think he said, okay, all right, I guess I'm not allowed to play, hard like this when it comes to hitting. And he got careful.
And the funny thing about that suspension, Kevin, if you remember that game against the Penguins, he went into him. I mean, yeah, he might have gone up into the head a little bit, but it was, I mean, and then you had later in the game, you have another guy that needs to be severely punched in the face, Chris Kunitz with a.
Oh my God!
No! It was Zdenek McCulloch. My bad. McCulloch cross-checked Matt Hendricks into the boards. He hit first into where the glass and the boards meet, and there wasn't even a penalty call on it. I'm like, if that's not a suspendable 5-minute major for cross-checking, I don't know what is.
Yeah. And that didn't get reviewed either, right? It wasn't called, nor was it reviewed.
No, it wasn't.
Unbelievable.
And you have ones like the Marcus Stewart hit on Marcus Johansson last year behind the net. In the first game, they went up to Winnipeg up to 2 years ago when they went up to Winnipeg when they were in division for the first time. I mean, there's plenty of hits that's just like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, Kunitz, when he slashed Varlamov in the throat with his stick, like in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Yeah. That reminds me of when Sean Avery skated in front of him and punched him in the face mask. Varley was playing cool then, but he was a star too. Looking at Varley, I called it when I saw him. I said, that guy's going to the Hall of Fame if he can stay healthy. And look at the way he's playing now. And if you ever hear somebody say Bruce Lee between the pipes, I'm raising my hand. I claim that one. I made that one up. I said Varlamov is a Bruce Lee between the pipes. And somehow that spread, and I heard Kevin Weeks on the NHL Network say, yep, Varley's a Bruce Lee between the pipes. I'm like, how the hell? What message board did you read that I was writing on? You bastard stole my quote, man.
Well, and the thing is with him was, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the groins need to be healthy. I mean, if his groins are healthy, he was stellar. I mean, he had a little problem with handling the puck, but that's understandable. It's scary to see how the trades have. I mean, if you packed the trades together and everything, eventually we traded Varley for Erat and Lotta.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you think we got second round. We got a couple picks out of that, and then we parlayed one of those with Eakin to get Ribeiro. I see Eakin playing well down in Dallas. That's another kid. I'll tell you, sometimes the prospects that they have. You remember 4 or 5 years ago, Hershey was stacked.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
And one guy that I championed, and I will always champion, and the guy that I saw in Hershey had the pedigree. The problem was, at that point, we were stacked on the left side. I mean, you had Ovechkin, you had Semin, you had Brooks was playing wing, I think, at the time. So you had 3 left wings there. Chris Bork have a prayer to play more than a fourth line role.
Right.
I mean, he was a guy that I compared to a poor man's Martin St. Louis, a small guy who could play the power play point, who had excellent skating ability, who had a nose for the net, but never got a chance to be a top 6 forward in this league. And eventually he's been bouncing around to the KHL, to Russia, to Switzerland. He came back here, we traded him to Boston when he had his first kid, which was a great move by McPhee, letting him go home and be with his kid and everything and play for the hometown Bruins.
Yeah.
That didn't work
I knew
out.
some people that were heartbroken when we didn't get him into the lineup.
He was a tremendous. I mean, I thought if he had gotten a chance, he would have been and I'm not ashamed to say that. I mean, played at NHL games, and the best line. I kid my brother and a couple of people. I'm like, hey, I got the best line in video game history. I got Chris Bork, Nicholas Backstrom, Alex Ovechkin. When they're together, light up the layup, baby.
That's right.
I think I'm the only man in history who has Chris Bork as a Conn Smythe winner on a video game. So go figure. No joking on that one. It was funny, Kevin. I was playing NHL 13 before 14 came out, and Ovechkin got hurt in Game 1 of the finals. So Chris Bork picked up the slack. I was like, Ovi came back in 6 and scored a hat trick and went to 7.
Well, speaking of playoffs, do you think that, let's say this whole lineup stays healthy on an odd chance, how deep can we run with this team just the way it is?
I think the big thing is that 6-man decor. That's the thing that's going to keep this team from hoisting that 35 pounds of silver.
Yeah.
Because goaltending, I've always said that Holtby was eventually going to be the man. When they drafted Farley, they drafted Newby, and then they drafted Holtby. Everything I heard about Holtby was like this. He has the demeanor. Of course, a lot of them were comparing him to a Hextall because the puck handling, and two, he had a nice little attitude that got quelled by Ole once Colsey came in as a goalie coach. He started talking to him, say, "Hey, you can't lose your temper every time someone comes in the crease," because they said Holtby would punch him, slash him, everything. I mean, he was like Ron Hextall and Billy Smith, 21st century mode. But at the same time, I mean, you see how well he plays the puck. I mean, he has his gaff every so often. The great ones all do. You know, look at Brodeur, look at Waugh, look at all those guys. They've assisted on other teams' goals and not get credit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, he did. He looked like he got a little rough tonight, but I think he when I picture Holtby in my mind, I think of like this Buddhist monk. He just has this concentration and calmness level. But then again, like you were saying, maybe, I didn't realize he had an attitude problem before, but I will see him shove people, and I don't mind that at all. I don't see it as do you see it as like a liability?
It's as much as he wants to make sure that, hey, if you're going to come in the crease, I'm going to make sure you get out of my crease. But at the same time, like you said, he's got a focus that you don't see many young goaltenders. Yeah,
exactly. The age and the focus don't match. I think he's set a record there by binding those two.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, he's got everything he needs right now. He's a awesome little baby boy, as they showed many times tonight during the telecast, and he's got a very centered. I mean, now he knows he's the man in D.C. He's number one. You got 1B waiting, knocking on the door at him, and Newby. And good thing about having a 1B, I don't consider Newby a backup. I consider him a starter in this league. I mean, he's a 1B. But having a guy like Newby, where you don't have to worry about him rocking the boat about playing time.
Right.
Yeah, you can throw him in and give him a couple games in a row. Hope he's not going to bat an eye, but at the same time, you're not going to lose anything with Newby in the net. Maybe a little puck handling, but other than that, I mean, got two solid goaltenders that might. If Holtby keeps playing the way he is, I wouldn't be shocked if Team Canada made him like the third goalie and brought him over, because I mean his puck handling could help Team Canada on that big ice surface.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about that 6-man D-corps? What do you do if you're George McPhee to get that right?
I still would like to see Dmitry Orlov get a long look up here. I really would. He's the guy that I thought was going to make the top four solid. I was thinking he was going to get the shot to play with Carlson, with Green and Alsner being together. And I thought that was going to be your 4-man unit with your Alexis and your Hillens and your Erskines and Schmitz and Schillings. And, I mean, you hear all these names we're rattling off in Kondratic. It's like this team's actually suddenly pretty deep at the blue line for young guys that you can bring up and down.
Yeah, and that we've been sorely missing that for the past few years. Just before this year, haven't we? Kind of had a dearth.
We haven't lost many guys for injury, but the guys we have lost, it's been. I mean, the one time I remember us losing a ton of guys on defense was when we lost Weidman, Carlson, and Green against Tampa Bay. You could tell that Tampa Bay just sucked the life out of us. And you have Sean Collins as your best puck-moving defenseman, you know you're in trouble.
Sorry.
Especially when you're playing a 1-3-1 trap that's just waiting for you to come up. And the sad part about that, Kevin, was Bruce Boudreau knew how to beat Guy Boucher's 1-3-1 trap. The problem is he didn't have a puck-moving defenseman to get the puck up the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now we've almost got that built up, and how do you see team chemistry now? It looks to me, I'm looking at the young guys coming in saying, are they really meshing well with the older guys? I think on play style, they've got that figured out, but what about the chemistry? Wayne Gretzky always said a great hockey player may not know where the puck is, but he knows where it's going to be. Have they gotten to that level?
I think you're getting to the point where you have guys that are. I mean, remember Brooks played 9 games in Adam Oates' system last year. He's still learning the nuances. Now he's playing center. I mean, he's playing. He's learning the center nuances of that job. You bring in a Mikhail Grabowski in late August. I mean, he's learning what to do. He's finally getting a chance to play good minutes again after the debacle that he had to go through in Toronto last year. And I mean, then you're bringing in a guy that eventually is going to move up the lineup in Tom Wilson. I mean, it's funny how when Alexei got put in the lineup, Steve Alexei's played 4 very good hockey games, and now Volpatti's been inserted in the lineup. And I'll tell you, Volpatti's lines looked. I mean, the 3 games that him, Fair, and Wilson have been together, they've had at least one stretch where they've cycled that puck for a good minute and just frustrated the heck out of it. I mean, you saw it tonight. Edmonton was trying to get that Everly line out there, that top line out there.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them out there when you have the puck going, cycling around those boards for a good minute in your own end.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And they'll, the movement that I'm seeing between the blue lines, too, is I'm getting far more impressed with that now because it seems like we have a plan. Before, it was always kick it out of the zone, then knock it deep, and then hope for the best. And now I'm seeing it looks like some sort of orchestra now. Something is meaningful is happening between the blue lines, and I think that's sorely, sorely overdue. I think Oates had probably been trying to make that happen, and it's just starting to work, getting some passing to the...
Yeah, I think also is what you're looking at, and something that I brought up on the Facebooks and I brought up on the radio shows and everything is you got to realize how inexperienced this coaching staff is. I mean, last year you had a Tim Hunter on the bench who's been through the wars that Oates could bounce stuff off. Oates has been behind the bench, I think, 5 years. I think it's 2 years in Tampa, 2 in New Jersey. I mean, or 6 years, and then he's in his second year with the Caps. Calle Johansson was a scout. All of a sudden, he was an assistant coach. Blaine Forsythe was a video coach until this year when he got promoted to assistant. So you're you got a bunch of guys, and then Ole Kolzig took over full time for Dave Pryor. He was a goalie consultant for the minor leagues for the last year or two. So you have a very young staff, so they're learning from them. But you can't. I mean, granted, you can't shake a stick over the amount of games played in the NHL between Oates and Johansson and Kolzig. That's over 3,000. That's almost 4,000 games between the three of them. So you can't sniff at that. But at the same time, you still want to. I mean, everyone's still getting used to. We haven't played a full 82 games with this style yet. Wait until things really start getting picked up by this team.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how we're going to do with the way the league is divvied up now with the new divisions. Are you? Yeah,
getting in there with the Flyers and the Penguins and and the Islanders and the Devils and the Rangers, just starting mucking it up again with those teams.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
The Flames will be coming back, and but what do you think about the rest of this road trip, man? We've got to get tired at some point. It's every two days.
Well, I think what's been key is Oates has been rolling 4 lines.
Yeah, you're right, and he did that again tonight extremely well toward the end.
Especially at the third, fourth period. I mean, it was every fourth shift, and the thing is playing every other night. They don't have a back to back. Sometimes in years past on these road trips, you've had back to back nights. I mean, look at San Jose. They played. They played. Who they play when they played? It was Boston. Boston played Buffalo and then had to come back and play San Jose the next night, tonight, after they played Buffalo last night. Now, I mean, it was key for them to get out to they got out to a 3-goal lead with 6 minutes left, and they were able to roll the lines the rest of the game so they could be fresher. But you see some of these road trips where, I remember back in the day, the Caps would play back-to-back nights in Calgary and Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's spaced out. I mean, as condensed as the schedule is, it's a nice breath of fresh air that the schedule has it where they're every other night, and then they have 3, and it's hilarious because the Caps always have one of these road trips where they can come home midway through the road trip, practice 3 days at Kettler, and then they take the train up to Philly to finish the road trip, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. It's a good point.
It's like, we're done with the road trip on Monday. Tuesday, take your day off, get back to Eastern Time Zone, have a good practice Wednesday, good practice Thursday, and go up on the train Thursday night and have a walkthrough on Friday, and you're ready to play the Flyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you worried about any trades that we have on the table? Anybody that might be falling off or coming on board that we really can't trust to fit in with our system? Anything like that you see on the fringes?
I don't see anyone getting moved right now. I mean, you have a good thing in place. I think you're going to see. I mean, we're so up against the cap too. I mean, we have to make 2-3 moves just to make sure we're cap compliant. The last couple of weeks to make with the whole getting Nate Schmidt up here. You had to move Hill into long-term injury reserve. Had to send Lotta down so you could get that contract up. So it's just going to be mainly trying to make sure that you're cap compliant and make sure you have the best 18 on the ice. I mean, you had to make. I mean, if you can find a way to get Alex Urbaum on the roster, you had to maneuver your team around a little bit. So I'm fine with what they got right now, and they said it's a long season. They're 5-5. 10 games in, 72 of them to go with an Olympic break thrown in there.
Right. That's right. It's going to be a great season. I can just smell it coming, man. It's just going to be great. I just hope we can make that deep run into the playoffs and surprise those fans in D.C. that really deserve a cup. I mean, we're due for one.
No, we've gotten to the third round of the playoffs twice. I want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and know that, hey, we're 4 games away from getting that trophy. And that's something, that drives me nuts, Kevin, is I just wish the NHL would just force the teams to pick up the trophy and take it back to the locker room with them. Just the superstition with the trophy is a little I mean, I did like what Chicago and Boston both did last year, that they brought the whole team around, took a team picture with Bill Daly, and then it's like, all right, you take it, and we're going home.
Yeah. I kind of liked the opening ceremonies for Chicago this year. I thought their technical assembly was beautiful.
I just hope Ted and them were taking notes.
Yeah, really, that's what I was thinking. In fact, I said in a show after that, for God's sakes, please, Washington technical staff, take a look at what Chicago did when they opened, man. That's what we have to do when we get the cup.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see a lot of times also is I always, when I go on the radio, I always kid with Ben and Ken. It's like, hey, I'm going to be there right on 7th Street. And when we got the playoffs started, I was like, all right, 1 down, 15 to go. My chair, my spot at 7th and Constitution is waiting for me to sit down at it. I will be right down on that parade route, soaking every last waking second of it. I would go down the night before, play ball hockey on the mall until the morning, waiting for the parade route to get set up. I mean, it'll be one gigantic party. And I would love it, Kevin, if we were the first team in NHL history to be in the Winter Classic as defending Stanley Cup champions.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? And that's 2015 we're going to be? 2015,
Next January.
Yeah. And the last one we were in, we served the Penguins their own asses.
Oh, I loved that night when when Fair put that second one in. It was 30,000 of us. You couldn't hear a pin drop in that place. It was electric.
Yep. What a beautiful game that was. I felt like there was almost a settling there of this big debate about Crosby and OV. It was like, okay, there's your answer. And then there are those in denial, but boy, it was just so decisive. It just felt so good.
It worked out perfect. I remember we were in the hotel room on Saturday morning when they said that the game was going to get moved to the night. I was like, that's absolutely perfect for the NHL and for NBC. I mean, 8 o'clock under the lights, New Year's Day. I mean, come on. I mean, the hockey gods wanted this to happen this way, and by God, it was just a great sight. Just when it walked into Heinz Field, and you just look at the ice just sitting there in the middle of the football field, and we're just like, this is heaven.
I'll bet, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so you're going to be at the.
We actually had a picture of we got a picture with Mike Gartner was actually sitting in our section, which was awesome.
Is that right? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we got a picture on my Facebook. Me and my brother and Mike Gardner after the game.
What's your full name again? I want to look that up real quick.
Bernie Deal, D-I-E-H-L.
Yeah, okay. That definitely sounds familiar.
Yep.
D-E-I-H-L. All right. And,
you have to sift through the pictures of me with Terry Funk and Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull, and some of the wrestlers and everything that I deal with, being in the wrestling business as well. So,
are you going to be at the next Winter Classic?
Oh, in DC,
automatic.
Freaking absolutely. I mean, my brother and I we're season ticket holders, so we have first shot at them, which is good.
Yeah.
The advantages of being season ticket holders. Although we go to half of them, we have someone else that buys in, gets half the tickets, and so that's half the cost right there.
Yeah.
But once the playoffs start, it's like, sorry, buddy, it's ours.
That's right. I went to one playoff. I think my first game was a playoff game, actually. It was about, because I had followed them all my life, but I only went to my first game about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And we were playing the Penguins, actually. I think it was, I think I made game 5. It was my first game ever, and we lost. And I was heartbroken, but, did I just drink it in? Because that first game, you just...
overtime game? Was that the game Malkin scored in overtime?
Well, no, I was it? It may have been. I thought we lost like 5-2. But I might be thinking of another game in that same series.
Because the Cats won the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Because the second game was Ovechkin and Crosby both having the hat tricks. The first game was the afternoon game where Varley made that incredible save on Crosby, and then it went to Pittsburgh, and Sean Morrison hit the post, which would have made it 3-0. And Letang got that lucky goal, and then it went the other way. And they were up 3-2, and then Steckel had the tip in Game 6.
Yeah.
Game 7 was taken away from the Caps 4 minutes in.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one we lost like 6-2 or something, wasn't it? It was a terrible beating.
Well, if everything would have been a completely different story if Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't just absolutely stone-cold rob Ovi 4 minutes in.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have changed the tempo altogether.
Oh, that place was ready to explode.
But that save Varley made on Crosby, my gosh, there couldn't have been a more open net. And here he uses just the... and that's got to be a picture on his wall. I'm sure it is.
Well, Emmerich and Olczyk thought it hit the post or went wide, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, he actually made the save. Like,
yeah. Did they review that? I think they had to review that, didn't they, after that play?
No, I mean, Toronto never called down to review it. I mean,
okay.
That's the great thing about instant replay in the NHL is Toronto's looking at everything.
Yeah. Well, we are up on our 1 hour showtime, Mr.
Cow. We're talking for an hour already? My goodness.
Hell yes, but you're always welcome to call in. You're also welcome to co-host any of these games, home or away, and I'd be glad to have you.
I definitely love to co-host when I can. It's and it all depends on where I'm all over the place. Sometimes I can't even make the post-game show for the home games. So I'm really calling from different towns. It was funny. One playoff game I was in, I think I was in, no. It was this past year, in February. I took my brother to Daytona 500 for his Christmas present, and I called in the post-game show for the game Ovi had the hat trick against New Jersey. I'm calling in from Daytona Motor Speedway. That was the night. Actually, that was the day that they had the debris go into the stands for the nationwide race. We were right there, one section over from where all the tires and the debris went into the stands. On the big wreck at the end of the game in his race. Yeah. My brother was a media star for the next 6 hours because he posted all his pictures on Yahoo, and then Channel 4 and Channel 9 up here in D.C. wanted to talk to him down in Daytona. So I was like, yeah, you get on your cell phone and talk to the reporters. I'm going down to the Hooters to watch the UFC fight, so just let me know when you're done. So, but yeah, Kevin, definitely we'll have to get the Levesque brothers, and actually I work with Brad Ricucci, so Ricucci and I work together, and
good.
So I have to get a bunch of people on. I like getting a lot of different inputs and outputs, and hopefully we can structure it where we're fielding the questions from people, and we can give them some good answers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are obviously very knowledgeable about the Caps and the game, and that's what the people that listen to the show are looking for. The show is growing. It's small right now, but it's going small to medium, and now it's been put in front of all of those listeners from iHeartRadio. So we're going to get an influx.
Well, I'm frustrated with the way hockey's covered in this town, and I listen to 106.7 The Fan all the time, and it's so football. It's like football's crammed down your throat, and I love the Redskins. I always will love the Redskins, but there's a team in this town that has a reigning MVP that is one of the hottest players on the planet right now. You have a basketball team that might be a playoff team this year with a bunch of young budding stars themselves. You have ball teams that are losing star players on their college teams. You have college basketball starting. You have more than just Redskins. You don't have 5 days worth of material on the Redskins. You can always talk about other teams. So.
Well, what is causing that separation where Redskins are getting so much highlight and nobody else is?
It's probably ratings. I mean, it's probably everyone. I mean, everyone wants to talk Redskins. Like, you guys just aren't educated enough. You aren't educated talking about Capitals and Wizards and all that stuff. So maybe the people that are doing the shows aren't as versed into all the sports as they think they are.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Well, Kevin, all right, definitely a fantastic day. I definitely enjoyed myself on the first, my first taste of Caps on Tap.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome anytime. And that's what I want to do. I want to kind of keep a revolving door open of co-hosts and guests. And you guys are just so smart. And I have this deep love for the Washington Capitals. So to hear you talk about them and talking about those holes that I can't fill in, it just brings a complete show. You know, we're not going to sugarcoat anything here, but we're also, one of the things I like about a guy like you is you don't beat up on the players. You can always tell a new fan because they just assault the players. And what they're really trying to say psychologically is, I know a lot about hockey. Look, I'm going to beat up on this player.
And the thing was I have a glass half full and everything. It was funny because I think I forget it was the Rangers game or it was I forget which game it was where they just looked absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And I went on the radio show and I was like, all right, guys, I know we're beating a dead horse, but I'm going to apologize to PETA for beating and bludgeoning this horse about the lines being changed. And you get Kevin Sabrin laughing. That was a pretty good one there. But also I was like, I'm always drinking, I always have the cup half full. Well, I was thirsty, so I drank the cup half full. We need to get these lines changed.
That's right. Well, it looks like somebody was listening to you because it happened, and look at the results.
All right, absolutely.
A thing of beauty. Yeah,
it's all good. I mean, you don't want to belabor it because, you want chemistry to happen with the lines, but at the same time, after a while, the lines ain't working.
Yeah. Yeah, patience has its limits, even for, veteran fans like you who are going, look, I can wait a game or two, but you make me wait 5 games and the lines aren't working. What's going on down there on the coaching staff? But it looks like they've got something working now, man. I just hope that it can become a solidified machine.
You got to get through it. And, 82 games, there's a lot of ebbs, a lot of flows, a lot of nicks, a lot of injuries, a lot of streaks, you're going to run in the brick walls, and you're going to run through perforated fences. There's going to be times where you have a hot knife that goes through butter, and the other times where you're breaking your fork every time you're trying to go through the ice cube. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, I'm getting too metaphorically crazy, and I got to go to work in the morning. So
I was going to say, you just reminded me. You just reminded me of a movie quote. It was Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets. He said, "People that talk in metaphors ought to shampoo my crotch." I don't know what the hell he meant by that, but I'm always aware of metaphors since then.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I won't touch that one with a 20-foot pole tonight, but maybe I'll bring out the 10-foot pole later on.
I don't blame you at all, man. But hey, metaphors are necessary on the radio. It's about all we got. We can't use body language.
It's entertainment value,
Absolutely, man.
Chicks dig entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Well, you guys heard it here first. Bernie Deal bringing you all that noise, funny and knowledgeable, and he is promising us right here on the air. I'm trying to get that promise out of him that he's going to come on again and help me co-host this show. to bring you all the news about the Capitals and their victories and even their defeats when they come, because we got to talk about them. So I appreciate the call, and Bernie, I really do. You carried the show tonight, and I want to give you a thank you for it.
I appreciate the invite, and I just want to everyone that's listening out there, promote Caps hockey, promote the NHL in general, not just the Caps, because you can watch a game doesn't involve the Caps on NBC or NBCSN or NHL Network. There's a bunch of great games coming on this weekend. Hey, I mean, 7 o'clock right before. I mean, the Caps don't play till 10 o'clock. Watch. You got Rangers in Detroit at 7 o'clock on NHL Network on Saturday night. That's not a bad game to get you ready for Caps and Flames at 10. So,
absolutely.
I mean, hockey is so underappreciated in the U.S. and needs to be more appreciated, especially if U.S. is going to be sniffing for gold in 2014. So.
That's right. That's right. You got it, buddy.
Kevin, I'll let you sign this puppy off, and I'm going to sign myself off into a nice 4x6, and it's not a gold crease, it's a bed. So.
All right, buddy. All right, well, thank you again, Bernie, for calling in. And I'm just going to expound on a few points you made here before I sign off. But I want to thank you first and say I hope we talk to you again very soon. Absolutely. Look forward to listening to the rest of the part. Keep me on the phone. I'll just listen. You can sign it off. I won't say enough for it. Thanks, Kevin. Yep. So you guys heard there from Bernie Deal, and one of the things he mentioned that I would just like to leave you with is the sport of hockey. Let's take it away from the Capitals for a second. Here's a sport where the hits can be at 5 times the speed of football hits. You have this certain excitement in the unpredictability of the way things move on ice. You have people dropping the gloves for a fight, so you've got your UFC or your boxing in there, and all they're going to do is sit in a box for 5 minutes. What more excitement can you ask for? You've got the goal situation that you might find in a soccer game / football if you're European. You've got guys that are so tough that they're getting bones broken on occasion and coming back out on the ice to play. Every epic adventure that you can imagine in a sport takes place in the NHL. What a beautiful sport to follow. I just think it's gorgeous. I've always been infatuated with it. When I was in high school, I played all 4 years of football, and I loved football. But would I have traded that to play ice hockey if we could have? Absolutely would have. Just love the sport. It's a beautiful sport. It has art, it has elegance, and it has brutality. And what more can you ask for? I mean, that is a thing of beauty. And that's what we're going to leave you with tonight. And tune in after the next Capitals victory. I don't normally do shows after a loss because nobody wants to talk about it, which I understand. So I can live with that. But you've been listening to Caps on Tap, your special guest and co-host tonight, Bernie Deal. This is Kevin Kierstead, and we're signing the whole thing off. Let me remind you what you've been listening to from the Capitals arena announcer himself, Mr. West.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Yeah, and it is on that note that I will say peace and out. We'll see you later, Bernie.